These guns are all super premium double action, single action competition guns, and this guy is a cringy competition shooter, and today we're gonna see which one of these guns performs the best. Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David, and every once in a while I get a wild hair and I like to hollow out the safe and compare a bunch of guns to each other because I recently reviewed the Grand Power X-Calibur and I was very curious how it stacked up with the other super premium guns in the field, so I hollowed out the safe and I decided to test them on the range. So the premise is pretty simple. I basically just set up a very miniature mini stage course of fire with 2 open targets and 1 partial to no shoot target. I shot them at 3 different distances with 3 strings apiece, and then we're going to analyze the slow motion video as well. We're going to let the scores speak for themselves and crown winners and losers, so you're not going to want to miss that. So let's go ahead and meet the guns. So all of the guns are double action, single action guns. All of them are heavily used in IPSC competition, and we use them here in the States in USPSA competition. The CZ and the Tanfo are basically clones of one another. They're not exactly the same on the inside with the clockwork, but both use tilt lock barrels with very similar barrel designs. The Beretta uses a locking block system and has a drop top slide that basically allows brass to escape wherever it wants. And the Grand Power uses the most unique action in the form of the rotating barrel in order to dissipate energy required to move the slide. It's kind of cool, and it allows a lighter weight gun to behave almost like a heavyweight gun. Now's the time to place your bets. Sound off in the comments with which gun you think is going to win. And while you do that, I'll walk you through the scoring system. First, we're gonna look at slow motion. Doesn't really affect score, it's just kind of fun to look at pistols shoot in slow motion. Then we're going to evaluate the pistols as I shot them. So those of you who aren't familiar with Comstock or USPSA style scoring, it's an efficiency score where the points you shoot is divided by the time it took you to shoot them. Since I shot 3 strings of fire, I have 3 times, and then I would go total up all the points on all the targets, take all those points and divide them by the time it took to shoot them. For the purposes of these drills, the alphas are worth 5 points, Charlies are worth 3 points, deltas are worth just 1 point, and a miss or a no shoot is a penalty of minus 10 points, and that hurts really, really bad. All right. I'm gonna use a random number generator to establish a shooting order. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna start back at 25 yards and we're gonna progress forward, and each time whoever shot first gets bumped to the bottom, and we're gonna rotate through just like a match. So random number between 1 and 4. Generate. It's 1, so X-Cal's gonna go first, Shadow 2 second, Tanfo, Beretta. X-Cal lost the draw. We're gonna do every string from a DA start. And we'll do low ready. I'm gonna be indexing off a rock on the ground I've got identified. So, here we go. All right, that is a 412 first string. That is a 417 second string. All right, load show clear. Yeah, that is a 435 last string. 25 yard X-Cal, we've got 5 Alpha, 1 Charlie, 2 Alpha, 4 Charlie, then 3 Alpha, 2 Delta. I don't know what happened on those last ones. I was just getting a little sporty. All right, CZ, let's do it. It's 409. .447. All right, and let's show clear. That is a 402. A little bit quicker on the CZ. The weight definitely felt like it steadied me a lot more. I had more to kind of hold on to. Settled in on target a little bit easier. Let's see. All right, CZ, we've got 3 Alpha, 1 Delta, 2 Charlie. We've got, what's that?
rip the paster. That's 4 Alpha, 2 Charlie. And then we've got 6 Alpha. Okay, 25 yards, Tanfo. $393. $382. Show clear. That is a 401. All right, I got 3 Alpha, 2 Charlie, 1 Delta, 4 Alpha, 2 Charlie, and 6 Alpha. Not too bad. Beretta, 25 yards. Let's go. That feels amazing. 402. $384. I hope those hits are good. It feels like I can go that fast with this gun. Oh, that was a Delta for sure. All right, let's go. All right, Beretta, I got 4 Alpha, 2 Charlie. Womp womp. 4 Alpha, 1 Charlie, 1 Mike, 1 no shoot. That's gonna hurt. And then we've got, what's that? That's probably 3 Alpha. That's 2 bullet holes. That'd be 3 Alpha, 3 Charlie.
So at 25 yards, what I noticed is that the big heavy guns had an advantage. The heavyweight guns are just easier to steady out in recoil and just feel a little bit nicer. And it's no surprise that the heaviest gun goaded me into going the fastest, and ultimately it paid the penalty because I ended up dropping a shot down onto the no shoot. So that is a Mike no shoot in one of the strings of fire, which basically is going to be a tough hole to climb out of for Mr. Beretta. So at the end of the stage, the efficiency factor, or hit factor, if you will, is calculated. Whoever has the most points available to it, and it was the Tanfoglio at the 25-yard line, is going to take all of the stage points. So number of shots you fired times maximum points available, which is 90 total. So the Tanfoglio is walking away with 90 points, and the Beretta, unfortunately, is way down on the list with just 68 points due to the penalty. We'll play what ifs at the end of the game if I didn't drop that penalty with the Beretta. Alrighty, stage 2, Shadow 2 is gonna go first. We're at 15 yards, same drill as before. Double action start. All right, that's 3 seconds flat. $298. All right, let's have a look at those. Felt pretty good. That's 306. All right, CZ Shadow 2, 15 yards. That's 5 Alpha, 1 Charlie. It's gonna be 5 Alpha, 1 Charlie, 5 Alpha, 1 Charlie. All right, we got our stock 2, 15 yards. Let's go. 282. $295. $310. Stock 2 at 15 yards. We got 4 Alpha, 2 Charlie. Ooh, 6 Alpha. 5 Alpha, 1 Charlie. Beretta, 92X. All right, the return on that came back low. I think I probably threw 2 Charlies low on that. Oh, one's a Delta, yep. But 303. $318. That one was $313. All right, so with this Beretta trigger coming off the stock trigger, Beretta trigger straight, stock trigger super curved. It's not a good pairing, so I threw a low Delta there. But that's gonna be 4 Alpha, 1 Charlie, 1 Delta. By the skin of its teeth, 6 Alpha, look how close we got there.
and 6 alpha for Mr. Beretta. All right, Grand Power X-Calibur 15 yards, let's go. 314. 295. All right, that's 318. I can tell I was a little bit too afraid of the no shoot after what happened. You'll see soon. Grand Power 15 yards, 5 alpha, 1 Charlie. There, that's not going to touch. 4 alpha, 2 Charlies, and 6 alpha for Grand Power.
Moving up to the 15-yard line, the CZ actually went first, and what you would expect to happen did happen. Whereas the distance got closer, the delta between the guns really started to tighten down. The CZ came in much closer to it with 88 points, getting really, really close. The Grand Power surges back in third place at 86 points, and the Beretta had a much stronger finish at 85 points. Moving up to the 7-yard line, the Tanfoglio had its turn to go first, and disaster struck.
All right, here we are at 7 yards. So Mr. Stock 2 is going to do the favor getting us started here. 218. 219. Oh, trigger freeze. 253 because of trigger freeze. That last shot was 47. Horrible. Horrible. All right. For Stock 2 at 7 yards, we got 6 alpha, 5 alpha, 1 Charlie, 4 alpha, 2 Charlie. All right, we got Mr. Beretta ready to rock and roll. Here we go. 224. 224 again. All right, 224. What the hell, man? Wow, okay. All right, for Beretta, 7 yards, we've got 5 alpha, 1 Charlie, 6 alpha. Look at that Beretta. And then that bottom one's gonna make it, that one's not, so 5 alpha, 1 Charlie. All right, Grand Power, let's do this. 219. Ooh, over rotated there on the last one. Threw a bit of a wide Charlie, saw it happen. 223. At close range, that feels great. That's a 208. All right, Grand Power, 7 yards, 5 alpha, 1 Charlie. 5 alpha, 1 Charlie. 4 alpha, 2 Charlie. Both times I swung to right there on target and came back. That was the first run, that was the second run, so I saw it happen. 227. 216. All right, at 7 yards, that's going to be 6 alphas for Mr. CZ, 6 alphas for Mr. CZ, and 5 alphas, 1 Charlie for Mr. CZ.
In the last string of the exercise, I got trigger freeze on the last target. Now the Tanfoglio out of the box, and all these triggers are unmodified. The Tanfoglio has the longest reset of all of the triggers, and wouldn't you know it, I ended up getting trigger freeze because it was kind of a cold day and my hand was kind of cold. But the CZ was a bit quicker and had the highest score and won, but it only ate into the Tanfoglio lead by about 6.5 points. So the Tanfoglio ended up being the champion, with the CZ very hot on its heels in a close second. So analyzing the gun, if I correct the boo-boo for the Beretta and change that to a Charlie from a Mike no-shoot, and I changed the split time up from a 0.3 of a second penalty to what all of the other splits were on the Tanfoglio. The Tanfoglio grows its lead a little bit, but the Beretta jumps up to be right on top of the Grand Power. So what did we learn by doing this? Well, we learned that I'm not a machine and I'm prone to making mistakes. On any given day, we could have gotten different results because that's ultimately kind of what practical shooting is. What I definitely did learn and appreciate is the guns that were heavier, I tended to prefer for the distance shooting. That's pretty well universally accepted that the heavier guns are better at distance. The Tanfoglio frame fits my hand the best because I have LXL gloves. The frame is a little bit longer, but because of the recurve trigger, I can get a better control of the trigger, so I just have an easier time with the Tanfoglio. The CZ is almost as good. It's a little bit more sculpted in the back. I would say it's a little bit thinner, smaller feeling, but it's just not as stable in my hand because the frame is ultimately smaller. The Beretta was the gentlest shooting of the bunch because it has probably the broadest profile going across the back. The G10 grips on here, these are LOK grips because it's Italian. Veloce. But the Beretta ultimately paid the penalty because the trigger profile it has is a very straight trigger profile. It was very different and it was shot behind the Tanfo and behind the CZ, which both are sporting recurve triggers. So ultimately I ended up pulling that shot low and the Beretta paid the penalty for it. Now I typically shoot guns that weigh about 40-ish ounces and this gun is lighter. So I wasn't able to exploit the handling characteristics of the Grand Power. Because it's a lighter weight gun, you would expect that you'd be able to swing this sucker around faster. I just didn't have as high a degree of confidence in the timing of moving the gun around because it was a little bit lighter weight. In a static target, just pulling the trigger and splitting on it, it's not a big deal. It's very, very easy, but that's not what the drill was. The other thing that's probably worth talking through, because the optics are different on all the guns, there's an RMSX on the Beretta. This is the 4 MOA version with the polymer lens. 4 MOA works okay, but it wasn't that big. Next biggest is the Vortex Venom on top of the CZ. It's a 6 MOA, and it actually is a pretty crisp dot. I actually kind of like how the dot looks on the Venom. Moving up from there is the RMSX in 8 MOA with the glass lens on the Grand Power. This one looks pretty good. I actually really like how that one looks. But the Tanfoglio, some of you guys are not going to be able to believe it. That is a 10 MOA dot sitting in this RTS2 on this Seymour sitting on top of the Tanfo. This dot made shooting with confidence a lot easier. It's not for dot acquisition or anything like that. When you're just observing how you're shooting, it's a lot easier to see the bigger dot where it's landing on the target, so you can very quickly judge whether the dot's where it's supposed to be or not. With the finer dots, it's a lot easier to allow the gun to go off in a dodgy area of the target and just kind of hope that you were in the higher scoring zone that you're hoping for. The bigger dots take away that wonder and it's very easy to see where the dot is on the target. Out to about 40 yards, the 10 MOA dot doesn't really obscure too much of the target because you just kind of center it up on what you're aiming at. Shot calling for me is generally a lot easier with the big dots because it's a lot easier to observe where the dot is lifting from. So I would say that I preferred them in roughly the order of dot size as far as that was concerned. So I think all these guns are awesome. I could be happy to compete with any of them. I just need the time to learn how the guns are supposed to recoil, and I'm sure I can make all of them perform to my capabilities. So that's where we landed. If you enjoyed it, be sure you're subscribed to the channel for more of this kind of content and check out my content over on Locals. I appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one.